Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be in such a great room of difference makers. Everybody in this room is making a difference in this world, and that's really important. I want to start out today with a story. It was interesting. I was in Lee's presentation. If Lee's in the room, great presentation. Every presentation I've been in has been phenomenal. Let's give a round of applause to those people. The presentations that I've been in, they've all been level 10 presentations, so it's really phenomenal to hear that and to be a part of this group. And one of the things Lee was talking about was telling stories and how powerful stories are, because they get people out of their left brain where we get really judgmental and kind of evaluative, and there's nothing wrong with that, but stories push people into their right brain, pull people into their right brain where they're more connective and more listening and more conceptual. So that's an important piece. This is a true story that was written in Nautical Magazine in 1929. A ship's captain was out to sea. It had been a beautiful, clear night, and he was just enjoying the moonlight on the water as it glinted off the water. And he looks up and he becomes a little concerned because he sees the light of another ship approaching his ship in the distance. And he says to the signalman, "Please tell that gentleman move 8 degrees to the north." And the signalman does so. And the signal comes back, "You move 8 degrees to the south." Well, now the captain's a little perturbed. I mean, he is the captain. He's used to being obeyed. He says, "Please tell that gentleman, this is the captain issuing this order. Please move 8 degrees to the north." And the signal comes back, "You move 8 degrees to the south. I'm a seaman's first class." The captain's like, "Who is this guy?" He said, you better move 8 degrees to the north. I'm on a battleship." And the signal comes back, "You move 8 degrees to the south. I'm on a lighthouse." Now I want you to think for a minute. What's the motto of the story? What's the moral? Know who you're talking to. And know that I have to tell you, in my own life, I'm often looking for things out there that I don't like what I'm seeing to move and shift when I'm in discontent in my own practice. But I always realize it's up to me to make the shift. I have to move. Like the ship's captain, typically I'm looking at something I think should be moving, and it's me that needs to make the move. And I love that growth mindset that all of you share, because you wouldn't be in this room if you didn't have that growth mindset. If you didn't have that understanding that Earth is a school, and we're here to learn. So I think that's phenomenal, and I want to applaud you. I also want to talk about a couple things that I'd like to ask of you, because I think it's really important to get some feedback from you. So what's the number one value that you came to this conference? I want to get 3 people to respond to me. What's the number one value you came to this BEI conference to leave with? Would someone raise their hand and share that with me? And maybe if we have a microphone, possible? If we can. Anyway, think about that. What's the number one value you came to this symposium, to this workshop, to leave with? What did you want to learn? Yes, ma'am. Hold on. Let's get the microphone. Jared, thank you so much. How many times do you see the CEO running microphones, huh?
I don't know this necessarily what I wanted to learn, but new relationships. I knew that I was amongst, like-minded individuals, and so I was looking forward to that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And are you making those new relationships?
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. It's Marla, right?
Yes.
Great, Marla. Glad you're here. To learn how to make new relationships, that's phenomenal. Who else? What did you come here to learn?
You're going to make me run today.
We're getting your workout this morning, Jared.
Kind of simple, but really I'm my own worst critic, as most of us can be.
Yes, sir.
And to really say, you know what, I do measure up. I do matter, and I can make a difference. And I've got a tremendous family here that will support me in that and lift me up.
Excellent.
To do what God is calling me to do.
Excellent. So you are on your soul purpose, and you're seeing it. You also realize how many people have that inner critic, inner saboteur in their head that makes life way harder. Because on this side, right, we have what I call the ego self, right? Fear, doubt, worry, scarcity, negative judgments, not enough time, not enough money, not enough good people. That conversation gets first crack at all incoming data. That's called the ego self. Lower self over on this side, we have the higher self, love, peace, faith, confidence, abundance. How do we listen to that voice? What's your name, sir?
Scott.
Hi, Scott. I'm Steve. So you want to really remember that you're a difference maker and really learn how to not let the inner critic put you down. Excellent. That's a terrific thing. So relationships and not listening to the inner critic. Let's take one more. Yes, sir.
Other advisors are going to connect with the business owners to generate business, and also want to see the freshen up my mind for the resources that
What are other business owners doing to connect to new clients and also to glean the resources of BEI that maybe you don't know are out there for you to use? That's phenomenal. I love that. So what I'm doing here is I'm really connecting to you and using a new tool that we've been developing at Mission Driven Advisor. And I say new because it's really not new. And most of you in this room are doing this when you're really working at peak performance. But we put it together in a package. And we call it Mission Driven Advisor. And the idea is to go on a mission and make that mission be your lead thing. That you are, and you've heard this term before. How many people have heard the term servant leader? So that we become servant leaders and use servant leadership, which is a new model of leadership. And so I'm going to start out with our mission here today. And our mission for you, and it's interesting, when I saw John interviewed, yesterday morning they had John, an interview after breakfast of John. Any remember seeing it? And he said, our mission at BEI is, and delivered the mission. And now Simon Sinek has come out with this book called Start With Why, and a lot of you have heard the book by Simon Sinek, Start With Why. But how many of your clients know not just what you do, but why you do it? So I want you to know why we're here today. And we're here to deliver extraordinary value, uncommon value, that helps you increase profitability and momentum in your practice while enhancing inner peace and joy. I don't want you to necessarily be only more profitable, because inner peace at the cost, profitability at the cost of your inner peace oftentimes isn't worth it. And there's so many times I run into great people in this business that we're in, which is making sense of money. That's really what we're doing. You know, one of the biggest contradictions, two biggest contradictions on the planet, money and God, right? We're not going to talk about the latter, but we do talk to people about the former, don't we? So you're making sense of that for people. And our mission here is to help you get better at doing that by learning how to deepen building relationships and building trust with clients. And we call this the Producer's Practice Building System. And we create that there's two kinds of people in the world. There's producers and consumers. And I don't want to use those terms the way that our economist yesterday might have used them. A producer is somebody that produces goods and services, and a consumer is somebody that consumes them. We think of a producer as somebody that intentionally creates more value than they consume. And why is that important? Because there's consumers, they're the takers of the world, and they consume more value than they produce. And why is this important if you're in the business of money? Because dollars follow value. It's a simple truth that when we're creating value for people, dollars follow value. So I want you to understand that there are certain principles that we use in this Producer's Practice Building System. And the first thing we do is we help you manage your mind and get away from that inner critic, that inner saboteur that is exhausting on a daily basis. And remember that inner critic always gets first crack at all incoming data. So you've got to do something to manage that inner critic. When you're managing that, and you can get over here to this higher self, and you're expanding your higher self using the tools and techniques that you're learning and the resources here at BEI, and really manage three things really well. Your energy, number one, your time, number two, and your money, number three. Being great stewards of your energy, your mental capital, managing your mind, your most powerful tool and resource. Very few people are talking about what your most powerful resource is. It's here. And how well are you managing your mind? Then how well are you managing your time? Making sure you're doing your prime money-earning tasks during those prime sales-producing time periods. How well you're managing your time. And finally, how well you're managing and stewarding your money. And so we put these things into a package that we call the Producer's Practice Building System. Because life is not designed to hand us success, but rather to give us challenges that require us to grow. If I'm in the lower self, those challenges are going to break me down. When I'm in my higher self, those challenges will build me up. We build up muscle, we build up strength, and we get stronger, and we help more people. The more people we can help, the more value we create, the more money we make. We want to do it in a way that's not eroding your inner peace, but in a way that's enhancing your inner peace and your joy. So let's dig into that. Why is it that we have this lower self? Well, there are limits to human knowledge. And this is really good to know these four things, because most of us know about the first two, but very few of us know about the last two. The first aspect of human knowledge is what you know that you know. People get locked into what they know they know. What do I know that I know? I know if I spend more than I earn, I'll eventually go bankrupt. I mean, simple things like that. The second level, what you know that you don't know. I know that I don't know how derivatives work. I mean, I could probably explain it as a tool, but I really don't know how they work. I don't know that they do work, actually. But I know that I don't know it. But here's where we get into the two dicey areas that are really important. What you think you know but don't. What you think you know but don't. And I want to put this into a context right now. I was listening to, I think it was Dan and Karen and Pat and Chip yesterday morning in the first program, and I found it so fascinating that here's these people that are clearly top 1% producers in this business, in our industry. And they all were talking about referrals and personal introductions. And I want to ask everybody in this room by a show of hands, how many people methodically use a personal introduction or referral system with every single client? By a show of hands, raise your hand high. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's usually what I find. I think there's 100 to 150 people in the room, and we usually find 6 to 7%. Now, if I were to ask you how many people know that's an intrinsic and critical part to your practice that you want to master, every hand in the room would go up. Why aren't we doing it? We have resistance to it. We have resistance to it. We're allowing this lower self to jump in and say, you know, I know I'm meant to get it, but I run out of time. I know I'm meant to get it, but it makes me feel, I know I'm meant to use referrals. If we could have you walk away with one thing, which is methodically using a personal introduction system with every single client that was integrous and honorable, that actually made the client feel powerful, that would be a massive takeaway for you. We polled 100 advisors about 6 years ago. Their biggest problem, CPAs, money managers, life insurance agents, P&C agents, realtors, mortgage brokers, 100 of them. What was your biggest issue? And 62% of them said, where is my next tier 1 client coming from? That was their biggest issue. Now, there were 4 other issues that made up the rest of that pie, but I found that fascinating that our biggest issue for me and for you, for the most part, is where is your next tier 1 client coming from? And the truth is, if you realized that you have a way that you're not using because you have some sort of limiting belief that's coming from your lower self, that's preventing you from methodically using a referral system, and you're able to walk away committed to use a referral system, which is part of what we do in our practice building system, I think that would be really valuable. If you could walk away knowing and creating certainty to say, I know where my next tier 1 client's coming from. Now, I want to say Lee put up 10 ideas in his how-to segment at the end. Blogs and emails and webinars and podcasts and all these great tools. And I want to tell you, we do 9 out of 10 of them. My daughter Jen and I were sitting here. Jen is in the room right now. And we were sitting there and we were nodding because we do 9 out of 10 of them and we get business from all of them. But there's no greater, we track it, source of where our tier 1 clients come from than our personal introduction system. And I think that's really powerful. And the only other reason I wanted to bring that up, I don't have any slide about this because it just dawned on me, what could I do to create the most value for you? And as I'm listening to people speak, I'm realizing that it's a big issue. I mean, how many people had that as an issue? Where is my next tier 1 client coming from? How many people are concerned about that? By a show of hands, raise your hand if that's a concern for you. Hi. Don't just give me the half. Yeah, a lot of people are. So I want to tell you, the simplest and fastest way is that when someone writes you a check, they're saying, I trust you, here's a check. And if you were able, along the way, to have measured using what we call rating scales, a value rating. For instance, I say to my clients at the end of every call, there's probably 5 or 6 people that have worked with me in this room, and virtually at the end of every single call, I say, what was the value you received today on a scale of 1 to 100? 100 being max, 1 being little. And they might say 80, they might say 95. Usually we get in the mid to high 90s. Sometimes they're hundreds. I have a responsibility to do that. Now imagine if someone just wrote you a check, and at that point, when you're implementing a product in their life and a plan in their life, and they've written you a check, there's no greater point of trust. And if you said to them, I just want to slow down a minute, How valuable was the work that we did together? I want you to give me a value rating of the work that we did together on a scale of 1 to 100, 100 being max, 1 being little. And they said 95. And if you were able to pivot on the value, not on give me names so I can sell them something, but pivoting on the value that you created for them that came out of their own mouth. And you would say, who are the 2 business owners or couples just like you that you'd be willing to personally introduce me to? Because they deserve a 95 level wealth experience like we co-created here today. And tell me a little bit about them. Now imagine if you had walked in with a prompting list, whether you use LinkedIn or however you're doing it. But we suggest in our practice building system that you're looking on LinkedIn at some potential business owners. You can learn a lot using that tool so that you can actually go in and say, hey, tell me a little bit about Carl Lutz, or hey, tell me a little bit about Jared Johnson, or tell me a little bit about Karen Jesse. Would they be somebody I should talk to? Oh, absolutely. Gosh, I forgot about Karen. She's phenomenal. And if you did this methodically every time, you're not selling somebody, you're not doing something that makes them feel weaker, you're doing something that makes them feel more powerful. And I'm going to show you that, and we're going to unpack it as we go. So, oftentimes I catch myself in this, I think I know something, but I have to stop and let go because oftentimes I think I knew but didn't. And your clients fall into this too. And the final thing is what you don't know that you don't know. And that's why we come into groups like this, to learn what we don't know. And what I would ask you to do when you go home from this conference, because you've gotten so many great ideas, is to pick 1 or 2 of the best that you're committed to at level 10 to implement. Level 10 means like all in. The ones that are 5s or 6, put them aside. If you do anything, you're not a 5 or 6 crowd. You're 8, 9, 10 people. If something lit you up at level 8, 9, 10, that's the thing you got to do. That's the thing you need to do. Does that make sense? Okay. So I want to give you a sense of when I say what you don't know, you don't know. And some of you have seen this before, and I've used this a lot, and other people have occasionally used it, and I wrote this in one of the books that I wrote recently. And by the way, I gave you a book, Prosperity Paradigm, and I would love it if you at least give it a shot and read it, because I think it'll be valuable for you. So what I want you to do is look at this card, and I want you to read it 1 time through. Okay, just read it 1 time through, start to finish. I know this is a high-level crowd, college educated, no problem, you'll get it. There's no tricks up here. Okay? So for $100, what did it say? Anybody got it? Finished files are the result of scientific study combined with the experience of many years, which doesn't really mean anything. But this time when you read it, what I want you to do is count the number of times the letter F appears. And there's no tricks here. There's no F's in the word exercise. Nothing's hidden. I want you to count the number of times the letter F appears. Okay? Read it 1 time through, count the number of times the letter F appears. Okay? So, by a show of hands, how many people saw 3 F's? By a show of hands, raise your hand really high so I can see it really high. Most of the room is 3. How many people saw 4? How many people saw 5? How many people saw 6? Anybody see more than 6? This is a great group because usually people raise their hand and then they're making stuff up. There's 6 F's, but I want you to notice why most people see 3. Tell me why. What happens in the word of? Yeah, as children we're taught to read phonetically. There's a system that's going on in our basic inner self, our inner child. And every word has a letter, but in the word that has a sound associated with that letter. But in the word of, it's not an F sound, it's a V sound. And therefore, as you're looking for F, your mind skips over it because of what you learned in grammar school 40, 50 years ago. And we call that 3F consciousness in our thinking. And all of us don't know we do these things, and we do them every day. And this is why people need you, and this is why you have to understand the limits of human knowledge. And the way you countermand it is the first principle that we talk about. And this is the one guiding principle of our course. And if you take anything away from this presentation, I just want you to hear it and then write it down. And some of you are doing it, and some of you are absolutely fighting it. And the principle's called hard easy. And hard easy says this: every moment you face a decision, if you commit to do the hard thing first, what appears to be the hard thing first, you make the rest of your life easy. Now, what are we programmed to do as human beings? Easy, hard. And hard easy is based upon what I call the 1 degree shift. The 1 degree shift is, don't try to implement hard easy. 10 degrees in your life, 50 degrees, you'll never be able to implement it. But 1 degree in your practice, 1 degree in your practice. The one thing you're going to take home from this BEI event, this phenomenal event, what is it to you that you're willing to commit level 10 to, and that you're willing to practice it hard easy? And why is hard easy so critical? Because discipline is freedom. I just want you to hold on to that for a minute. I know many of you are very disciplined. I was sitting at breakfast yesterday with somebody I didn't know, and he just volunteered right out, I'm so undisciplined, it's ridiculous. Don't even try to talk to me about discipline. I don't want to hear it. And some of you are very, very disciplined in some areas of your life, but you actually believe in your inner self that discipline is punishment. So let's look at, in transactional psychology, there's 3 versions of self: the child, the parent, the adult. The child believes discipline is boring, eschews it, pushes it away. When I'm in my inner child, I don't want to know about discipline. The parent knows discipline's important, but uses discipline as punishment. Therefore, when being disciplined, feels punished. How many people feel discipline as punishment? Truly. A lot of us do. And yet, when we get to the tip of the pyramid, the adult, this is somebody willing to implement a growth mindset, willing to move from, I know that one. This guy's trying to sell me a program. Yeah, I know. From that to I don't know. When we move into the I don't know, and then we're willing to practice, build, using hard, easy, and specific principles, and there's really only a couple of them. We move beyond overwhelming complexity, which many of you are stuck in, overwhelming complexity. And you move into what I call elegant simplicity. The adult, at the tip of the pyramid, practices the complexity on the other side, which is mature simplicity. And Lee was talking about it this morning. What do? You know what we do for people? We help them achieve goals they can't achieve without help. That's what we do. As life coaches, and we're all ICF certified in our program, all our coaches, 10 coaches, all are certified by the International Coaching Federation. So we think that's important, the licensure. A lot of people say they're coaches, but they're not licensed. That's why I think it's phenomenal you're all here licensed or getting licensed in exit planning, because so few people have a coherent strategy to leave their business feeling great and knowing what they're doing after. So I think what you do is really important. So why don't you repeat after me? Ready? Discipline is freedom. Discipline is freedom. Oh, we can do so much better than that. Come on. Discipline is freedom. Discipline is freedom. Now imagine if we all believe that. And imagine if we decided to just practice at 1 degree. And that's where we're going, and that's what we're looking for. So I want to talk about why being on a mission is so important. A lot of people know who Abraham Maslow was, one of the founders of the personal development movement in the United States of America. A lot of things spun off Maslow, Est, Landmark, LifeSpring. I mean, Maslow was one of the purveyors of the personal development movement in America, and many of you are personal development experts. In many cases, you are. And what Maslow found is that we all share the same level of human needs, and we realize that these same level of human needs actually align with levels of leadership. So when you're in survival mode, you're a situational leader. You only lead when you have to. People don't follow situational leaders. Then you get up into safety, the second level of Maslow. Once survival needs are handled, safety needs click in. And then building your tribe, love and belonging needs. That's level 3 leadership. And why are these all in red? Because Maslow called these bottom 3 deficiency needs. And that when we move up into the top 2 levels, servant leadership, becoming a mission-driven advisor, something amazing happens. Proficiency needs. People start to automatically refer. You become proficient. And this is why the shift from selling to serving is so critical. And if you look at the top level, we call this transformational leadership. Love is the motivation. And it's the idea of Maslow's highest level, which is that a man and a woman sees an unfulfilled potential within them, and they seek to self-actualize it and turn that potential into the actual. And that's why all of you are here, because all of you have a discontent. You have not fully self-actualized. And you come to conferences like this to learn how to do it. And that's great. That's what a growth mindset's about. There's more. You've committed, no matter your age, to make your future bigger than your past. And I think that's really powerful. And so the shift from selling to serving begins with a shift in intention. It begins with letting people know your why. From proving worth to providing value. When you shift your intention from proving worth is about who? Me. Providing value is about who? The client. You access a new level of power and proficiency. And make no mistake about it, business is a practice of power in which clients always align with the most powerful offers they can get. Clients don't choose the best offer. They don't choose the most logical. They choose the one that makes them feel most powerful. Business is a practice of power. So if you come and you're telling a client what you think they need, that's not as powerful, God bless you, that's not as powerful as you asking them what value is to them. And then building trust by caring enough to ask what's important to them. And once you have trust, you can give them what they need. This is just human nature. This is a simple behavior modification fact that if you say it, it may be so, but if they say it, it is so. And so the whole practice building around this producers group that we've created is a methodical practice in learning how to build a relationship with a client by leading with your mission, by letting them know why they're there, and then putting the burden of proof on them to declare their own value proposition, because clients love to buy but hate to be sold. Would you agree with that? Clients love to buy. And when what you've given them makes them feel powerful, and they had part of the creative process that they collaborated and co-created it with you, now they've got a vested interest. You just released them to buy their own creation. Is that making sense? So that when it comes time to get referrals, you get a really high value rating, and they're not hearing, give me names of friends of yours so I can bug them and sell them. That they're hearing, who do you love and care enough about that you'd be willing to personally introduce me to so I could create an A+ wealth plan for them, like I was honored to create for you. And we don't call those referrals. We call those personal introductions because we believe they're a person. And we believe people are assets in this world. People are assets. So this is the shift in intention. The intention to sell diminishes power down to Maslow level 3 or lower. So how many of you, and every one of us in this room, including me, has had this feeling, I've been doing this for 20, 25 years, and I don't feel like I have any momentum right now. How many people have felt that way in this room? And those that aren't raising their hand are fibbing. The intention to sell diminishes power down to level 3 or lower. You are deficient when needing a sale and thus create a disadvantage. You're then required to prove that you and your offer are worth buying. Now you're proving worth to people. This elevates the client's authority into dominance over you while weakening your self-esteem. Because remember, self-esteem was level 4 of Maslow. But when you're down in deficiency mode, you're not at that level. You don't feel good about yourself. And they feel it. And they feel like they're in the wolf pack above you. You intentionally put them in a position of superiority over you. They feel put off by that dynamic and typically don't exchange. Why? Because they don't feel powerful. They feel weakened by your weakness. And I've had this happen over the last 33 years that I've been doing this hundreds of times. Hundreds of times. I know because I failed forward by doing this wrong. I would get out and speak too much and tell them how great me and my company were, and they're bored to tears. And I don't blame them. But when I lead with a why, and I ask great questions, clients will tell you everything you need to know to serve them. How many people do this and know this is true? Raise your hand, because I know many people in this room are doing it. And many of you aren't. And for those of you that aren't, please listen. The art of listening is a critical part of this new model of serving. And we call this new model of serving value-based enrollment. And here's what it's about. The intention to serve expands your power via the noble desire to create value. Your confidence expands and shifts from feeling weak to strong because you're there to help. Feeling greater confidence, you access level 4. Now, I want to say this again. If we went back and showed you those 5 levels of Maslow, when we get stuck, some people get stuck down on levels 1 and 2. But just via the intention to serve, lead with your mission, you jump to level 4. You can actually jump a level of leadership. Now, can you stay there? Not without expertise. I mean, you better be good at what you do. I don't want to say that expertise isn't important. It's critical. But this dynamic is an important precursor to create trust and earn the right. Chip said it 5 times here yesterday morning. You have to earn the right to get the referral. It's powerful. So that's how you earn the right. And what we discovered in our practice building and program is that when people led with their why, clients think it's weird, by the way. If you say, look, I want to share with you, I want to let you know, Mr. and Mrs. Client, why I'm here. I want to share an investment philosophy that will help you make every dollar work harder, smarter, safer, faster, so you have more money now and enjoy your money more now, have more spendable income in retirement than your current plan will give you, and have a coherent exit strategy so that when you leave your business or your practice or your career, you feel fantastic. That's why I'm here. Folks, does that make sense? And clients go, well, that's different. They're actually taken aback, but they feel really good about it. And then you go into specific questions. And in value-based enrollment, there's really only 3 questions. And it's based on the principle, trust times value equals win 3. Trust times value equals win 3. Have you ever bought anything from anybody you did not trust? Ever? Have you? And if you did, how'd it work out? Trust is the most important thing. You heard it 100 times, and you know it. How do you build trust? Lead with your mission. Start with why. Ask them what value is to them. Ask them what is value. Here's the big shift in intention. Ready? Value doesn't live in you. Even though you are the expert and know 10 times more than they do in the specific area of expertise that you're serving in. Value lives in the mind of the client. And when you care enough to ask the right questions, they feel cared for and they begin to extend trust. And once you have trust with them, then you can give them what they need. Clients don't want what they need, they want what they want. Let me just say that again. This is human nature. And research will bear this out over and over, and if you read Prosperity Paradigm, all the research is in there. Clients don't want what they need. I mean, how many life insurance people in the room find somebody that is seriously uninsured, but they're not willing to get insured? How many people find that? They don't want what they want what they need. So if you stop and start where they want to start, hey, Mr. Client, what does value look like to you today? Why did you take this appointment? You're super busy, yet you kept this appointment with me. And I know Chip referred you to me, but that wasn't enough. What were you hoping to accomplish in this meeting? And we call that question trust builder. And when you ask clients a trust builder question, guess what happens? They begin to extend the olive branch of trust to you. And you are there to politely disturb them. You are. You are there to lovingly disturb your clients. And why is that? Because that's your job. They don't know the right questions to ask. But if you ask them a disturbing question and you don't have trust, they'll be turned off, right? Does this make sense? Feeling greater confidence, you access level 4. You become a servant leader. You become proficient. The burden shifts from you having to prove worth to their having to declare value. Once they do, you can tailor the plan to specifically address their needs, creating favorable conditions for them to buy their own co-created plan. So that's what value-based enrollment is. And the idea of it, we call it a new idea of value-based enrollment, is really the shift from selling to serving. And when you make that shift, the referrals and the amount of sales goes through the roof. An IDEA is an acronym used to remember the new mindset of value-based enrollment. Value-based enrolling involves mastering each of the 4 stages of an enrollment conversation. The 4 stages of an enrollment conversation are: number 1, connect. Connection. Do you know how to connect to people? Number 1. Number 2, concern. What is their concern? Why did they take the meeting with you? Number 3, clarity. That's where you educate them. You're educating people and getting them clear about what they need to move to the next level. And number 4, commitment, and that's where you close the sale. They make a commitment to work with you. When we focus on each stage one at a time, the process becomes graceful and easy. Prospects always want value, but in the right timing. When you help them get clear on what they want and how they could best go about getting it, and whether or not there's a win-win that works for you both, that's when they feel empowered. And the IDEA model helps you remember what these stages are and how to move people through them. Now, I want to talk about what value is, because how many people know what value is in a financial context? And what I find very few people do know what value is. Value is any person, product, or service that, number 1, alleviates threats. How many people have an exit strategy? How many business owners that you run into have a coherent exit strategy? I'd like to know. Like, out of 10 business owners, how many people have a coherent exit strategy? Joe, how many would you say? 2 or 3, 20%. So is it a threat that they don't have it? How many know what their business is worth? I don't think any of them do. You don't know what you don't know, but they think they know, but often don't. So any person, product, or service that alleviates threats, especially unknown threats. Number 2, any person, or product, or service that fulfills obligations. What is the number 1 obligation financially? Cash flow. Cash flow. My friend Carl Lutz has this thing called cash flow mapping. It's a really simple online tool. Carl, are you in the room? Yeah. So Carl's got this thing called cash flow mapping that helps people, because when cash is flowing in your life, isn't it great? But when cash is not flowing in your life, isn't it a concern and a threat? So what if you could help your clients cash flow? Would it be valuable? And finally, any product or service that capitalizes on opportunities, typically by transferring risk, not assuming more. Why is transferring risk important? You want them to have economic confidence. The more risk they have, the less confidence they have. The less risk they have, the more confidence they get. This is value in a financial context. I would write this down, what value is, because very few people really know. I mean, imagine 3 things were happening to your home. You're putting an addition on the home, the roof is leaking, and your house is under attack. What's the priority? What would you handle first? The attack, that's the threat. What would you handle second? The roof, because that's the obligation. What would you handle third? Finishing the addition, because that's the opportunity. That's why we talk about, as a principle, protection first strategies. And when you follow these principles and build your practice based on these principles, what you're going to find is you're going to get a steady stream of Tier 1 clients. There are people in this room that we have talked to already that will become clients only because we're creating value for them. When you create value, people want your value. And when you're introduced by somebody they know, love, and care about, you're riding surrogate trust to them. That's what we're doing right now. Some of you are just meeting me for the first time, didn't speak to me ever. But because I'm standing on stage at BEI, there's some level of surrogate trust that I'm riding until I say something that's boring or that you don't like. That's why personal introductions are so critical. So the value-based enrollment stages are, number 1 stage, connection. It begins with an intention and not prospecting, but inviting people. And there's a big difference between inviting and prospecting. Do you like being a prospect? Do you like being telemarketed? Do you like being prospected? Honestly, do you? Does anybody in this room like being telemarketed and prospected? Nor do your clients. The intention is selling. Nobody digs it. But everybody wants value. Everybody wants value. So when you have an intention to create value and you're inviting people, there's a different dynamic that happens. Maybe the timing is wrong, but maybe months later it'll be right. I worked with a client that I invited 15 years in a row. He's been a client now for 3 years, and he's a phenomenal guy, and we have a fabulous relationship. 15 years in a row, God bless you. And the truth is, I wasn't good enough to give him what he needed in 2000 when I began inviting him. But by 2015, I was actually strong enough to give him what it was he needed. I had grown enough. That's where I know the universe is this amazing place, because I believe that we have a universal conspiracy to succeed, not fail. See, when you're a producer, the secret that I discovered, and we wrote about it in Prosperity Paradigm, and we did study after study after study. This is based on research. Is there is a secret to prosperity and abundance. Here's the secret. It's the core of every spiritual work you've ever seen or read. Give more than you take. Give more than you take. Givers gain. You heard Lee say it. Other people have said it here at the front of the room. Chip talked about having to earn it. Karen referred to it. When you give more than you take, you put yourself in a state of universal surplus. We live in a giant cosmic magnet, we all know this, where the universe gives you, it boomerangs back to you what you're putting out. So when you're working this system, you start attracting people via this law of sowing and reaping, or the law of vibration and attraction, or if you're into physics and science, it's called the law of sympathetic resonance. But what it says is that like attracts like, and it always does. It's how these lights operate, it's how this microphone operates, and it's how value-based enrollment operates, via the power of intention and inviting people. The second stage is finding out what their concerns are, what they care about. And that's what we call discovery and diagnosis. You're asking a series of questions that will discover what they want, what they have, and what their biggest problem is. And when you find that problem, point it out, ask them questions about it, and politely disturb them. And I mean that. Why do you think I'm saying politely disturb them?
What's in their best interest?
Isn't it? I mean, God forbid you're in the shower and you're washing and you find a lump under your armpit, right? It's disturbing. But out of self-love, you're going to get an appointment and go to the doctor, and typically maybe it's just too much caffeine. But God forbid it's something more serious, but it's an act of love to know. And it's an act of fear and the lower self to not know. And most people are in fear. 80% of people that will tell you I don't need what you offer need exactly what you offer. You have to continually ask and invite. And eventually they'll say yes. These first two stages are coaching. Coaching is not giving advice. Coaching is discovering what they need and what they want. Then these last two stages, educating and empowerment, that is consulting. This is when you change your hat. You are giving advice. You are building a plan. You are building a strategy with some financial contracts and some specific moves and maybe even a fee in there. And then finally, this last stage is what most people would call closing the case. And what it really is, aligning with them and saying, here's what you had before you met me. Here's what you'll have after you implement our recommendations. Which makes you feel more powerful? Working with you. Boom, scale drops. They take action. That's value-based enrollment in a nutshell. That is the shift from selling to serving. And it begins with a shift in your own intention. How many people read Start With Why by Simon Sinek? But are you actually leading with your why with your clients? Are you? Does it make a difference? Yeah. Terrific. I know a lot of you would probably say, I know I should be, but I don't. And so we talk about a series of questions. Each of these has a question to it. Intention, I'm here to create extraordinary value today. What does that look like for you? You see, I actually opened with that question. So if you led with your why and then you said to somebody, look, I'm here to create and share some uncommon knowledge, a unique investment strategy, a unique exit strategy, a unique money management strategy, a unique insurance strategy, whatever it is. But first I want to check in with you and get a sense of what you were hoping to accomplish here. I mean, you're super busy. I see your beautiful family there on the desk, and yet you took this meeting with me. Why? What were you hoping to accomplish? What's on your mind today? And listen. The second question, what are your concerns, obligations, and opportunities? What concerns you when you think about leaving your business? What are the obligations you have to fulfill when you do? How much money do you need to comfortably retire? What are the opportunities before you go that you want to capture that you feel you're not capturing? They're going to tell you everything you need right here. But what I find with advisors is we're not asking enough questions and we talk too much. We're so wanting to help that we tell them our thing, our elevator speech or our sales pitch. That's not what this is about. It's a short little why. You're there and right into questions. And with some people, if they feel like the questions are too much, then find the hot button issue that they want to talk about, their biggest concern, and tell them, how concerning is this to you? How committed are you to resolve this on a scale of 1 to 10? 10 being totally committed, and 1 being I could care less. I want to know commitment level. Here's why. Commitment creates value. You want to waste your time working with somebody that does not care about their business and family as much as you do? You want to waste your time doing that? No, of course not. And you do run into those people. We all have. So you want to find someone that's really committed. These questions will flesh that out. Discovery. What threats and issues are creating enough discontent for us to be meeting today? What's your biggest concern? What's your biggest opportunity? What glaring issue should we resolve first for you to really get what you want? I'm just going to kind of sprint through these. What course of action do you now believe will best resolve this issue? And I've got a list of 20 of these questions that we give advisors, and typically they take about 3 of them. And I'm going to show them all to you here today. We're going to go over some of them in the solutions circle at 1 o'clock in the other room. We invite you all there. Also, if you want to come to one of our symposiums as a gift to you, the symposium is $12.95. It's in Florida in January, a nice time to be in January, over 2.5 days. And we teach this value-based enrollment. But we're going to do a $500 off coupon for anybody in this room that wants to come. So I just wanted you to know that. It's $500 off if you want it. And if you want that, Jenna's standing in the back. Jenna, raise your hand. That beautiful lady in the back, and she will help you with that. Number 6, empowerment. How much more powerful would implementing this solution make you feel? I mean, what happens if you're showing somebody something you think is phenomenal and they say, meep? Not at all. What do you do then? You turn and you say, what would make you feel more powerful? What solution do you want to focus on? And I'll tell you why these feedback monitors are so critical. Negative feedback is good. My lower self doesn't want to hear it. My higher self needs to know it. Negative feedback is good. Why is negative feedback good? It's honest. You learn. Yeah, do you want to fly blindly into the mountain? Or would you want to know the mountain's out there and you're flying into it? Right? Positive feedback is great. Love positive feedback. And no feedback is deadly. So let's just go through this together. Ready? Together. Negative feedback is good. Ready? Negative feedback is good. Positive feedback is no feedback is. Why is no feedback deadly? Exactly. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what you have. Alignment. What would be the value of making these changes for you, your family, and your business? This is when clients are telling you, if you've used feedback monitors and you've measured value all the way, and you've measured their commitment level to resolve their problem, and then you say, what would be the value of making these changes? And they're going through and telling you, those are buying signs, clearly. And then finally, do you have enough confidence in the work we've done together so far to implement my advice today? And if you've done this, they're going, of course, why wouldn't I do this? And here's the amazing thing. It doesn't matter how big the exchange is. It could be a $10 million 10-pay. It can be $5 million of equity transfer. It can be a huge fee in an exit planning case with life insurance and equities later to come. It does not matter how big the case, because when value is their idea, they will want to buy their own creation. And so I've talked about a couple principles, and I want to go through them. I call these the prosperity principles. Hard, easy. Every moment you face a decision, by committing to do the hard things first, you make the rest of your life easy. And we talk about how many degrees of a shift using hard, easy. Just 1 degree. And I'll tell you why this is important. Being a financial advisor and being in the business of money is hard. It's really hard. There's a cute story about 2 guys that pass away on the same day. And they go up to the pearly gates, and they see St. Peter at the pearly gates, and St. Peter said, "Men, you've both lived exemplary lives. You both come into heaven. Welcome to heaven." And the first one is Lenny Cohen, financial advisor from New York City. And Lenny proudly strides up, and he gives Lenny this beautiful golden staff with a beautiful ruby at the top and a beautiful like silk gown and robe, and he strides off into heaven. And the second guy is Pastor Smith from Kentucky. And he thinks, oh my gosh, the financial guy got that. What am I going to get? Comes up to St. Peter. St. Peter hands him a little old gnarled stick and a burlap robe. And St. Peter says, come on, Pastor Smith, in heaven. He goes, whoa, whoa, whoa. St. Peter, not that I'm not grateful to be going into heaven. I mean, I'm really honored. But the financial guy gets the gold and the robe, and I get the staff and the burlap. What's up? And he said, Pastor Smith, I got to tell the truth, and I always do. You know, when you did your sermons on Sunday, people slept. When they invested with Lenny, they prayed. Being a financial advisor is tough. It's tough stuff, right? Hard, easy. Number 2, people are assets. People are assets. We are raised in the scarcity paradigm that money is the prime asset on this planet. It is not. If I gave you $50 million and put it in a briefcase and stuck you in the middle of the Sahara Desert with no way out, what's it worth? Nothing. Currency without human beings to exchange it with has no value. People are assets. I talk about protection first because I believe that if the primary source and resource on the planet is human beings and people, especially wise people, I would go as far as to say that wise people are assets and ignorant people are liabilities. I know that sounds rough, but I would say if we're going to be truthful, we want to contextualize that. But if the primary resource is human beings, the first financial move must be protecting the economic value of human life. Number 4, money follows value. The ethical way to make more money is by creating more value. If you create more value and you up-leverage your offer to more people, and you're getting more and higher levels of people to work with, you're going to make more money. It's that simple. We know the principles. Value lives in the mind of the client. Anybody struggle with this one? The value lives in the mind of the client? And number 6, that trust times value equals win 3. And I didn't really define this. What are the 3 wins? Number 1, the client wins first. We put our clients before our self-interest. We do. Now, it doesn't mean my self-interest isn't tied to it. It is. I know if they win first, I win second. Society wins third. Because whenever you're doing what the great Stephen Covey said, win-win or no deal, that is called humanity plus exchanges. That's called conscious capitalism. Now, there is crony capitalism. What is crony capitalism? Crony capitalism is humanity minus exchanges. You know, some of the stuff the NFL's done with concussions. That's humanity minus exchanges. It is. No other way to say it. Monsanto and Roundup. They knew 40 years ago it caused cancer. That's humanity minus exchanges. When we're doing this, when we're taking a principled approach to wealth creation, those are humanity plus exchanges. You want to be a difference maker in your industry. You want to have a purple cow, impeccable integrity. That's the number one marketing move that will get you more personal introductions to higher level people. Impeccable integrity. I'm going to tell you another cute story. Why integrity in our industry is so important. Guy passes away. He was a financial planner, lived a good long life. Goes to the pearly gates, sees St. Peter again. St. Peter says, you know, you're a very unique case. Because you lived your life kind of a little bit crazy, but pretty much a good guy, I'm going to let you look at heaven and hell, and you decide where you want to go. And he goes, wow, sounds interesting. So he goes, okay, where do you want to go first? He said, let's go to hell. He goes, perfect, let's go. Down, 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 down. Starts to get redder, starts to get hotter. Boom, bursts into barroom doors. People are dancing, beautiful looking people. They're drinking. Satan's behind the bar serving drinks. He's out there having a good time. He's like, man, I never thought it'd be like this. He goes, don't make your decision yet. St. Peter takes him up, starts to get blue, starts to get light. Boom, goes through these beautiful pearly gates. People are listening to Mozart, rocking chairs, reading Shakespeare. Very nice. And he goes, so, you've seen heaven, you've seen hell. Mr. Former Financial Planner, what's your decision? He goes, you know, I never thought I'd say this, but I was kind of a party guy in my life. I think I want to go to hell. Terrific. Down, 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 gets redder and hotter, bursts through the barroom doors. There's a brick wall, two huge muscular guards, throws him against the wall, sticks him in leg irons and handcuffs, and pulls out a whip. And as he's walking away, he goes, hey, it wasn't like this before. And he goes, well, before you were a prospect, now you're a client. That's why our industry is a tough industry, I tell you. You must first forge trust with people for any level of value to really be received. The value is best received as a win-win-win in which the client wins first, you win second, and all other stakeholders third, the company, the manufacturer, society. When you keep sharing humanity plus exchanges, that is a differentiator. That's a difference maker. There's a guy out there that wrote a book called The Pirates of Manhattan. Anyone ever hear of The Pirates of Manhattan, the book? Did you ever read it? Yep. It's a fascinating book. One of the most interesting things is the 30 pages, maybe not 30, many pages, landscape, written long style, of all the Wall Street investment firms and the fines levied between 2000 and 2010. And it's shocking who's there. It's like a who's who of the street. See, people were prospects, but now they're clients, right? We want to be really impeccable with our integrity. This model of value-based enrollment is one of those models that will help you do that. And most of you are probably 90% there already. I just want you to make sure that you're solving your biggest problem, which is typically where is your next tier one client coming from. And I want to talk about the art of listening, and I'm not going to go through this slide because it's a long slide, but basically it talks about the power of questions. And I'm just going to read the first one. Questions push us to more. Answers make us think we're done. Think about it. Once we get the answer, we are done. We've discovered whatever it is we wanted. There's no need to go further. But when we have questions, we're pushed to more, to keep going until we get the best answer. It's in the push to discover that you learn far more than just the answer to one question. It's how you co-create new possibilities and innovations. One of the greatest things financial advisors can do to manage their mind is a tool that was written about, and you've heard it tons of times, and you've all heard it, and very few of you do it. But I would lovingly challenge you to think about doing it, which is develop a meditation practice in the morning. And there's a book that came out recently by Tim Ferriss called Tribe of Mentors, 150 of the most successful people in the world. And he asked the same 7 questions to those 150 people. One of the questions was, what's one of the great hidden secrets to your success? About 75 out of 150 said meditation. Managing my mind. Meditation teaches you how to manage your mind. If you can manage your mind and tell your time and money where to go, if you can't tell your thoughts where to go, it's hard to tell your time and money where to go. And that's why most people ask where it went. So I'm going to kind of jump over this because I want to show you a couple things that I think are really important. And we talked about these wisdom questions. And I led with an intention, and I said, God bless you, I said this intention. And this is just an example of an intention, of a why, of a mission statement. I led with one. John led with one yesterday morning, kicking off this symposium. I think it's important for you to understand the power of this. So here's the intention that I used. I want you to know why I'm here, to share an investment philosophy that will help you make every hard-earned dollar work harder, smarter, safer, and faster, so you feel more financial security now, more spendable income in retirement, and have a coherent exit strategy that allows you to leave your business feeling fantastic, feeling great about the next aspect of your life. And then here's these trust builder questions. To do that, I just need to ask a couple questions. Is that okay? Very different shift in style. And here's trust builder A. I'm not going to go through them. Trust builder B. I'm going to go through all these in the solutions circle just for the sake of time. Discontent detector. When thinking about big financial events in your life like weddings, college, or retirement, what's your biggest concern? Now we're moving into the second phase, concerns. And then here's these 20 questions. How much more money do you think you'll need to save to comfortably retire? Have you ever worked with an advisor before? And if yes, what was the experience like? Is somebody currently managing your plan? And if yes, whom? What is your level of satisfaction with the performance of it on a scale of 1 to 10? 1 being dissatisfied, 1 being totally satisfied. What missing ingredient would make your financial plan perfect? We're going to give these all to you. I'm just giving you a sense of how powerful these questions are. Why is the art of listening so critical? Someone tell me, why is the art of listening so critical? Yes, sir.
If you don't listen, understand their values, you can't bring value to them.
Beautifully said. If you don't listen to them and understand their values, Chip said we get referrals with people that share our values. Whew, it's powerful. What current financial obligations are you most concerned about being able to fulfill? This is where you can start coaching and consulting too. Do you have an exit strategy? What's your business worth? Start politely disturbing people. Start asking them questions that are meant to disturb them. Why? Because human beings are more motivated to move away from discontent than towards pleasure. Human beings are more motivated to move away from pain and away from doing what's wrong than do what's right. I have a friend that was pre-diabetic for 20 years. Started passing out, went to the doctor and said, well, it finally happened, you're diabetic. Then he started eating right. Then he started exercising. How many times have you heard this story? Be the challenger to your clients. Many of them are pre-diabetic right now. And I don't want to say anything negative about that because some people have it without ever having, certain types of diabetes we know people are born with and just genetically have. But some of us, we know what's happening in America today. When we're eating the wrong foods and not exercising, we know we can, cause that to happen in our own lives. Does someone assist you in making your financial decisions? I mean, these are critical questions, and I'm going to jump right to the last one because I think it's so critical. Oh, by the way, number 12, do you have a coherent exit strategy in place to confidently leave your business or career? And we suggest people that are new advisors have these on an iPad. And finally, the last question, what would I have to do to be referable in your eyes? What a cool seed to plant with people. What would I have to do to be referable in your eyes? Can you imagine if you asked that at the end of every so-called open talk to a client? And clients don't hear, give me names. You're not asking them for names, are you? What are you doing? You're saying, hey, folks, set the bar for me. Tell me what I would have to do over the course of the next couple months that we work together to earn the right to have you confidently refer us to some people you love and care about. What would we have to do to be referable in your eyes? Can you imagine if you planted that seed in every meeting? So I just want to pause here. I'm going to move here and talk about not just the prosperity principles and production, but actually tie into some of the things that Lee said this morning on how to build more leverage into your practice, because I think that's really important too. And it was talked about yesterday morning by the 4 producers that were up here, Chip and Dan and Karen and Pat. Is Pat in the room? No? To increase production, you want to increase leverage. You want to build a producers group, a network of people who constantly help you multiply and magnify your message to more people. A producers group is a network of strategic alliances and centers of influence that compound the power of interconnectivity. The distinction between strategic alliances and centers of influence lies, those words are usually used as synonyms, but they're not. The difference lies in the expectations and intentions around the exchange of value. With strategic alliances, the value expectations are financial, increased business and profit. They refer to make more money and get referrals. With centers of influence, the intention is based on one thing. They refer you so they get to feel more powerful. They get to feel important. When you become known for what you know, when you become an expert in your community, people will want to refer other people to you because it makes them feel powerful to refer people they love and care about to you. And this is the leverage multiplier model that we use. At the tip of the pyramid, you begin prospecting and referral gathering. That's how everybody starts in this business. But then you begin to build strategic alliances. Then you build centers of influence. Then you may be doing some seminars and deliverables. Then you may do joint work. And then you may build a digital presence using not labor doctrine, which is face-to-face, but computer doctrine. This is the model right here that Lee was talking about, Lee Fredrickson, this morning. And this is the leverage multiplier model. And let's just take the strategic alliances and see what a strategic alliance a network might look like. You might have CPAs, you might have an estate attorney, you might have a property and casualty agent, you may have an insurance agent or mortgage broker, you may have a realtor or money manager. And these people are all meeting, and you heard Karen talk about this. She is an all-female producers group. They have a commitment to each other to bring leads to each other, and they do on a monthly basis, and they track it. That's a powerful strategic alliance. How many people have this in this room? So probably like 10 hands went up out of 100. How do you create it? Start planting the referral seeds. Start operating using these questions of value-based enrollment. People will start referring you to other people that you can build into your strategic partnership. Start looking for people that, like an insurance agent, if you're a CPA, look for an insurance agent or a money manager that shares your values. This is all about who shares your values in a strategic alliance. That's what it's all about. What does the center of influence look like? Social leaders, family leaders, religious leaders, political leaders, business leaders, key executives. Each of them is in a group. These are centers of influence because each of them is a leader. People would meet with you on the strength of their say-so. So the insight I want to share with you is, how might you build this? And we do this with any agent that says, Steve, I don't know how to begin building my own producers group to get more referrals like this. And so one of the things that we do is we create this thing called a board of directors strategy. Some of you have done it in this room. It's not difficult to do, but it is a hard, easy task. And what you would do is this. The board of directors strategy is you start by making a list of your top 10 clients. The people that are not only the right demographic, the kind of money they make, are they married, do they have kids, where do they live, the car they drive, all those avatars, if you will, using digital terminology, but also the right psychographic. They share your values. They're caring, they're smart, they're good, they're coachable. So these top 10 clients have to have the demographic and the psychographic, okay? And you individually invite each one to sit on your board. You tell them you're starting a board of your company and you want them to sit on it because you share values with them and you respect what they do business-wise. And here's what we're not doing. We're not meeting all day long and taking minutes and doing all that crap to waste your time. It would be you and I even meeting over Skype, Zoom, telephone, or over a breakfast, and I'll buy breakfast. And I just want to pick your brain about some best practices of what you're doing. So would you sit on my board? And most people would say yes. And what you do then is in person ask the following 3 questions. Question number 1, what's the best thing that happened in your business over the last month? Like, pull out of them this positive focus. What's going on in their business? And then offer the best thing that's going on in your practice. Tell them I'm writing a book or starting a board of directors, and having you in it's, an honor to me. Second question, what are you working on now that's got you really excited? What are you working on right now that's got you really excited? Again, offer your authentic answer to this question. And finally, in what area of your business do you need the greatest support? And really help them in any way possible. They're going to tell you. And they might say along the way, hey, I thought I was going to sit on your board and help you. You're going to help me. I want to share with you the area of greatest discontent in my practice. You and your wife and your business partners are tier 1 clients of mine. Who do you know that you'd be willing to personally introduce me to that you think would get value from the kind of work that we do? And tell me a little bit about them. And they would absolutely be willing to do that. No problem. Because you're taking them through, in the first 2 questions, even in the third question, creating value for them. And when you create value for other people, there's this law in business, and it's been brought up time and time again here, the law of reciprocity. That when you do something good for somebody else, if they're a good person, and because they're a tier 1 client, they are good people. They're the right demographic and the right psychographic. They'll want to reciprocate back to you. And they'll want to give you the names of these people. And any time we've given an advisor, whether a CPA, money manager, insurance agent, realtor, P&C agent, doesn't matter. This strategy, it works every time, but it's a hard easy. So how would you begin it? Take 2 minutes and write down the names of your 10 ideal clients. Like literally right now, if you will, just take 2 minutes and write down the names of 10 ideal clients. Can you do that? I want you to just pull out a pad, if you will, and write the names of 10 ideal clients. Who are your ideal clients? And are you willing to do it? Please take a minute or 2 and write down the names of your 10 ideal clients. And just play along. Because the worst that can happen in this exercise is you look at your avatars. These are the people you want more of in your practice. Some of you don't know who they are. Some of you know exactly who they are. But many of you don't know their psychographic. You know the demographic. You know how much your ideal client earns. You know typically where they live, the kind of car they drive, the home they live in, if they're married or not married, single or divorced. You know those things. Those are demographics. But what are the psychographics? What are their values? How do they think? What kind of people are they? Are they smart? Are they caring? Are they good? Are they coachable? So take a couple minutes and just write down the names of 10 ideal clients. If you can't hit 10, that's fine, 5 to 7. But if you could get 10, that'd be powerful, if you could. Some of you know your exact client profile, some of you don't. I'm going to take one more minute and let you finish doing that, and then I'm going to close with a story. And I'm going to ask you to indulge me with the story because I'm going to curse at the end of the story. One curse word in my presentation. Is that okay? I hope that's not going to offend anybody, because if it is, I'm just telling you, I got one curse word at the end of this presentation. The whole presentation, just one, though. I'm a former minister at a church, so, cursing on stage is not something I'm used to, but it's worth it in this story, I believe. This young girl, 14-year-old girl, is on an airplane, and she's traveling by herself, and stewardess puts her on the airplane. She sits down the aisle, and a guy sits right next to her. And they're on a long flight, and he turns to her and he says, to make the time go by, why don't we talk? Strike up a conversation. She said, I'd love to do that. What do you want to talk about? And he said, well, why don't we talk about how there's no God, there's no heaven or hell, and there's no life after death? And she goes, oh, really? Well, that would be interesting, but I've got something even more interesting to talk about. He goes, really? What's that? And she says, why is it that cows, horses, and deer all eat grass? And when the cow poops, it comes out as patties. When the horse poops, it comes out in clumps. And when the deer poops, it comes out in pellets. And he stops and he goes, I have no idea. He's kind of stunned by her wisdom, what an interesting thing she said. I have no idea. She goes, then do you really think you're qualified to talk about the existence of God, life after death, or heaven or hell, when clearly you don't know shit? I want your takeaways to be this. Hard, easy. That discipline is freedom, discipline is not punishment. That if you can practice discipline is freedom and really live hard, easy in your business, and take from this symposium 1 or 2 level 10 ideas and implement that in your practice every week, that it's going to be worth your time. Because the danger is you leave here with so many ideas, you implement none. And I don't want that to happen for you. The second thing is to remember that people are assets. Always remember that. And that when you're able and willing to remember that value to them always will result in dollars back to you, your practice will certainly change for the better. Thank you so much for having me here. God bless you. Be well. Thank you.